Hello, I am Madison Goodyear. I'm the school counselor at High Point. Miss Cassatori is Lake Forest school counselor, and she will be here later tonight to do our in-person workshop with me. We did talk about wanting a recorded version too, so that for families who couldn't make it today or in January, you can still benefit from the information. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now so that we can get it out there ASAP for you. A little bit about me. I have been a school counselor for 10 years. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. So I'm really speaking to you today with social emotional knowledge and background, but also very much from the perspective of a parent. So you will hear me overshare plenty because I want you to know what it's really like to use some of these strategies in the real world, in your chaotic home. We are going to talk about what regulation is, and we're going to spend a decent chunk of time talking about how to self-regulate for ourselves as the grown-up first. Towards the end, we will get into how to be preventative, how to be responsive at home, but first we really have to understand how to regulate ourselves as the adults, which is much more difficult than it sounds. So let's go ahead and get started. So a big part of self-regulation is being able to manage our emotions. That does not mean being happy all the time. No one is happy all the time. No one is calm all the time. It does mean that if I am regulated, I can pause, think about the consequences of my next action, and choose my response based on what those consequences are going to be. So I'm in control. My feelings are not in control. It's also being adaptable and flexible. So when unexpected changes pop up, maybe something frustrating happens, being able to go with the flow and shift plans without it fully taking over our body and sending us into a spiral, okay? Persistence despite a setback. For kids that might be working through something even though it's difficult, a new concept in math. For adults, it may be, I had a hard day at work and I got to figure out how to get myself back to work tomorrow, right? That's all self-regulation. We are starting with how to regulate ourselves as adults because of this quote right here. A dysregulated adult cannot regulate a dysregulated child. So here's my first opportunity to overshare with you. I'm going to tell you what this quote means by giving an example from my own home. So last week, my husband was out of town. I had the kids by myself, again, 4-year-old daughter, 2-year-old son, and I've got great kids, right? I really do. However, we all have very big feelings. Sometimes the oldest, really even the youngest, sometimes they'll do things to get on each other's nerves on purpose, right? And the big feelings take over. And at the end of a long work day, all the screaming and the yelling can really be a lot, okay? It really can. So downstairs, my daughter was doing something to intentionally irritate my son. It's not that she was being mean. She wasn't yelling. It was like she was slowly walking in front of him so that he couldn't get into the room. And he is absolutely losing it. She 100% knows why he's losing it, and she's still moving at the speed of a turtle. Okay, I think she had something in her hands that he wanted as well. So double whammy. And I am getting dysregulated. Okay, in my mind, my thoughts are getting negative. Okay, I'm like, oh my gosh, this child right now. So I'm like, move! It wasn't a yell, but it wasn't very nice either. She starts crying. He is still crying. So now everybody's crying and it's louder and I've made it worse. And she's like, well, mommy, I'm sad because I feel like I'm in trouble. I'm like, you're not in trouble. You guys ever do that? Where the tone says you're definitely in trouble, even though the words say you're not in trouble? So I did that. Anyways, we moved on, but there were several minutes of crying and sad and blah, blah, blah until we could get back down here. Okay, within that same hour, it is time for everyone to take showers. We're upstairs. I'm trying to get all of the PJs out and the humidifiers filled up and all the things. And my children want to play bear hunt. So every room in the house, as I'm trying to get things together, they're turning the lights out because you can only play bear hunt in the dark. I recognize that earlier in the evening, I was not my kindest self. So I'm like, Emmeline, please stop turning the lights off. I repeat myself 2 times, 3 times, and then I start to feel it inside again, like I am going to lose it. Only this time I say out loud, woo, mommy needs to stop and take a deep breath because I am really starting to feel frustrated. And she looks at me and I say, Emmy, mommy's feeling a little frustrated because I asked you to stop turning out the lights and you're still turning them off. Really need you to stop turning out the lights. And she did. She's not crying. She doesn't think she's in trouble. I have communicated how I am feeling and what I need. Small parenting win. I wanted to give a few examples of what self-regulation looks like as a parent, because again, it doesn't mean being happy all the time. And I do want to make sure everyone understands admitting that being a parent can be dysregulating does not mean that you don't love your kids and you don't cherish your kids. We can love and cherish our children and still admit that sometimes being an adult in the world plus being in charge of other little people is a lot. It's a lot to take on. So if I am successfully able to regulate myself as a parent, that means I'm able to deal with their feelings better than I can when I'm dysregulated, right? So that might look like she's throwing down in TJ Maxx, and instead of yelling at her, threatening her, you pick her up and move her to a different, quieter spot to figure it out, right? That is regulation. And your heart may be pounding while you're doing it because you're actively trying to work against your fight or flight. But that's regulation, being able to say to yourself, I don't want to make this situation worse right now. Let me pick this kid up, move him to a quiet spot so we can get these feelings worked out. It may be a gentle response when your kid asks the same question for the 14th time. You are thinking in your head, you're thinking, this is irritating. This is irritating. Are you not listening? Why? I just answered. That's not going to be a helpful response. If I am regulated, I can respond with a, I wonder if you remember how I answered that question before, right? Instead of making it worse. When what you really want to say is, what is wrong with you? Why are you asking me the same question for the 14th time, right? It may look like your child back-talking you and you're not telling them it's okay, but you can respond in a respectful way and not just a, I'm sorry, who do you think you're talking to? Which is how we want to respond sometimes, how we have responded sometimes. So those are examples of what regulation in the real world as a parent looks like. And it's a journey to get there, and we're not going to be successful the whole time, and that's okay. All right, at this point, you are probably thinking, okay, I kind of get what she's saying, but what about when life is lifing and things are really hard and she said she has a husband. What if you're a single parent? What if your partner is working all the time, 3 jobs, trying to keep a roof over your head? What about then? How are you supposed to regulate with all those barriers? So let's talk through it. First, let's talk through some of those life things that happen, some of the things that keep us dysregulated. And then let's talk through how to notice when we are starting to be dysregulated so we can be proactive. All right, so what are some of those life things that make it really hard to regulate ourselves? Here's the truth. A lot of us are waking up already dysregulated. There may be some who wake up and they feel calm, they feel content, they feel ready to take on the day. And there are some of us who wake up and we're already kind of up here. So it doesn't take much to send us all the way up here, to have us freak out, if you will. So some of those life things that make it harder to regulate ourselves. Time pressure, okay? I have taken off 5 days this month because my kid keeps getting sick over and over. My partner has taken off time. I have no more sick days. Daycare has just called. He's got 101 fever. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I'm going to look flaky at work, but my kid can't stay at school sick. What are we supposed to do? Time pressure. It's real life, right? Or my kids all play different sports and all their things are at the same time. And even with two parents, we can't figure out how to get everyone to all the things and be there to support them all. There's only so much of me to go around. With that kind of time pressure, we are automatically this much closer to freaking out. We're going to be dysregulated. Economic stress and unexpected expenses. We're having a hard time making ends meet. Or maybe we do make just enough and that's okay, but we weren't expecting to have to replace all the tires this month. We can't afford to do that, so we have to put it on a credit card. Maybe it's as simple as we ran out of shampoo and conditioner and soap and toothpaste all at the same time, and now this grocery bill is $80 more expensive than we had budgeted for. Those are stressful things that have nothing to do with your kids, but could still lead you to be dysregulated, to make you react differently towards your kids. Okay, this one's a big one for me personally, dysregulated family members. For some, that may be our kids. For others, we may have partners who are easily dysregulated. We may have other adults living with us who are easily dysregulated. They yell a lot, they cry a lot, they scream a lot. For me, other people hollering is automatically going to dysregulate me. So when my children are dysregulated, I am more likely to be dysregulated. It's much more difficult for me to get myself calmed down so that I can respond in a thoughtful, calm way. Physical discomfort. So not just being in actual physical pain, but being tired, being hungry, being sick, all things that we have to work through as adults because we don't always have the luxury of just taking the day off and staying in bed. We are parents. People are counting on us, right? So even though my 6-year-old slept in the bed with me last night and elbowed me in the face all night, and the alarm clock went off at 5 a.m. and I didn't have time to eat breakfast because we were trying to get out the door, even though all those things are happening, I still have to figure out how to be a parent. It's harder to regulate ourselves with those situations going on. This is a big one, I think, a lot of times, especially for people who are in partnerships with somebody at home, unmet and often uncommunicated emotional needs. So an example of that from my own house might be, now my husband's a great partner. He does the dishes every night. He really is an equal partner, but there was a day before the holidays where I had off work, but the kids were at school, and it was the one day I had to try to get all things Christmas pulled together. And I'm out of the house from like 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. and it's almost time to go get the kids. And I walk upstairs and the kitchen is still a mess. In my mind, I thought, while I'm doing all of this, he's going to be getting the kitchen together, and he didn't. And I was so irritated, but at no point did I ever actually communicate to him that I wanted him to clean the kitchen. I didn't at any point. So it was an unmet need, but it was also an uncommunicated need. Those are things that we keep quietly inside of ourselves that can really impact the way that we respond to others, including our kids. And then we also have those day-to-day situational triggers, the inconveniences that we didn't plan for. We're running late and there's traffic we weren't expecting, or technology is not working and you're thinking, are you kidding? This is just one more thing. Those are things that happen every day, right? Sometimes I have to literally out loud tell myself, I'm going to be late today. I'm going to be late today. 75% of the time when our kids come in crying in the morning at school, it is because a parent was dysregulated and yelled at them on the way to school or trying to get out of the house because we're going to be late. Come on, get your shoes on. Let's go. We're going to be late. And they're crying. You're irritated. Me too. It's been me too. Okay. So that is why sometimes I literally have to out loud stop and tell myself, we're going to be late. We're going to be late. I'll set the alarm clock earlier tomorrow. Today, there is nothing I can do about the traffic. The time is the time. We're going to be late. So you may be able to think of other triggers for yourself. It's very important to understand your own personal triggers so that when these situations come up, you're aware of what's happening inside your body, because that is how we start to be proactive to make sure that we are regulating the best we can when we are responding to our kids. All right, we've been triggered, we're triggered. Now, how do we know we're triggered? Some of the warning signs that we want to catch within ourselves before we freak out so that we can intervene are external and some are internal. So some of those external signs that you can actually see are tense muscles. When I'm starting to get dysregulated, my shoulders are basically up to my ears. I might be, crossing my arms. My hands are tight. I feel tight. The average person looking at me could see that I look tense. You might see me fidgeting. Maybe I'm in a meeting, flicking my pencil around, chewing on my pencil, wiggling my foot. Especially for anger or frustration, those rapid, short breaths. I'm not really getting great oxygen anymore because my breathing is kind of shallow, maybe red face, sweaty palms. My tone is getting snappier. Okay, my tone is no longer as kind as it could be. And that is usually a sign that if I don't slow down and take a breath, the next time I talk, it's probably going to be an overreaction. Internal signs that we are starting to get dysregulated. Increased heart rate. That's a big one for me and is one I often ignore when I should pay attention to it. If your heart is beating fast, but you are not exercising or there's not a bear in the room, it's a sign that you're starting to get dysregulated. Difficulty focusing. Your thoughts are all over the place. You're thinking about something that happened yesterday. You're thinking about something that's going to happen tomorrow, all the different things you have to do. You're starting to have negative thoughts, and that doesn't mean necessarily mean thoughts. It can be just like I shared with my daughter, where in my head I'm thinking, this is so annoying. She's not listening to me. I'm going to freak out. When my brain starts to do that, it is a sign that I'm this close to losing it. When I notice those warning signs, I have been triggered. I know my heart's beating faster. I'm starting to get snappy. What do I do? What do I do to feel better quickly? Step one, really the top two, the first two listed are my go-tos. Number one, a sensory reset. If you are inside, go outside. Run cold water over your hands. Change the temperature. Listen to music. Dim the lights. Do something to kind of shock your body back into focusing on what's happening right now. I do actually go out on the porch sometimes. I'll say, hey, I just need to step outside for a minute, and I'll go outside on the front porch, and it doesn't take long, and it's not going to make the frustration go away. We're not trying to get rid of feelings. We're trying to control the feelings instead of having the feelings control us. So I'm going to step outside for a minute, maybe take a breath, and then I'll be okay to go back in and figure out whatever is going on. Reduce sensory input. Your teenager is listening to TikTok on full volume. Your child is asking a question, and your husband's trying to tell you something that happened at work today, all at the same time while you are trying to get dinner together. It's too much. Turn the phone down. Tell your child, I need a minute. I really want to answer your question, but I need a second to breathe. We're going to dim lights. My husband loves to play some rowdy music in the evening time. Turn it off. Music off. Dim the lights. Everybody needs to shush it, okay? Reduce the sensory input, and your body can start to come back down to a more level space. 4x4 breaths, very simple. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. That's a good slow, deep breath. I don't want to take for granted that some some might not know what a deep breath should look like. So when we are truly taking a deep breath, we're breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. So a lot of times when we're angry, we might do a, that's not a deep breath. In through your nose, nice and slow, out through your mouth. Model naming the feeling. Our kids are watching us all of the time, whether we want them to be or not. They are learning how to respond to their feelings from watching how we respond to ours. It is okay to say, Mommy is starting to feel frustrated. Daddy is starting to feel angry. I feel really sad about what just happened. It is okay to say those things. It is good for them to hear. Now, we don't want to say, you're annoying me. You're making me angry. We always want to go with an I feel statement. Grounding strategies. If you are really having a hard time bringing your mind back to focus on the now, something really simple is listening to the sounds around you. So maybe counting sounds for 30 seconds. You might tell yourself, okay, Madison, find 4 things that are blue in this room right now so that I'm not thinking about whatever it is that's dysregulating me. I'm thinking about something that is going on right now. Again, I'm still going to have to come back and figure out what to do with the feeling I was having and whatever the problem was, but my heart rate will have slowed down and my mind is going to be in a better spot to handle it the best way possible. Okay. So moving on to our kids, self-regulation in our kids is going to look different than self-regulation in adults, right? And it's all going to vary based on age. What we expect out of a 2-year-old is going to be different than what we expect out of a 16-year-old. So we're looking for age-appropriate patience. Can they wait their turn? Can they wait for you to respond to them if you tell them, hey, I need 5 minutes? Age-appropriate attention span. Can we stay on task even if it's a non-preferred activity? Can we switch from a preferred activity to a non-preferred activity if we're given a little bit of a heads up? Can we handle changes to a schedule? Can we name our feelings and choose a coping skill? These are all things that we would see in a regulated child. To be clear, no one is regulated all of the time. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, my kid freaks out when we have to switch between playing video games and then doing home, that's okay. That's very normal. And it is normal for kids to get dysregulated, right? But these are the things that we're looking for to know, is my kid regulated right now or are they not regulated right now? This image is a very short breakdown of something called zones of regulation. We're not going to go through a whole training on zones of regulation, but I think it's a very good visual to explain how regulation has to do with different energy levels. So our focus today is really on the difference between like green, yellow, and red zones. We really want to try to catch our kids when they're in the yellow zone. So green zone is going to be happy, calm, content. I can focus. I can handle changes well. I can be flexible. Yellow zone is going to be a little extra energy, whether that is positive or negative. So it could be annoyed, frustrated, overly excited, overly silly. For my daughter especially, she lives in the yellow zone. She is in the yellow zone probably 80% of the time. I picked her up from school just yesterday and she was in an amazing mood, but the whole way home, she was also extra silly, which in the moment is like, yay, she's so silly and fun. But I also know her well enough to know that any little inconvenience that pops up in the current state that she's in is going to send her into red zone, and it's not going to be cute when she gets there. So yellow zone doesn't mean we're in a bad mood. It means we're escalated, whether that is a positive feeling or a negative feeling. It means that when something comes up, an unexpected change, an answer from mom or dad that we don't like, we are much closer to a red zone, freak out, hit, throw, yell, call names, all that stuff. So we want to catch our kiddos when they're in the yellow zone to help get them back down to green before they hit the red zone. My daughter in particular, when she is in the yellow zone, she's starting to get dysregulated. She's extra silly. She might be making lots of blah, blah sounds, sticking her tongue out, repeating the same joke over and over again, trying to get her brother to laugh. It is starting to be harder to get her to follow directions. So I notice I'm having to repeat myself a lot of times. Her body is all over the place, even if we are watching a movie at movie night and she's running across the couch. Not a sign of a regulated child. She's dysregulated. She starts to have trouble waiting. So you might say, or if I'm like, hey, I need just a minute and I can answer you, you might get a, okay, yellow zone, we're getting dysregulated. She becomes extra, I hate to say bossy because these days we try to say they're leaders, but she becomes extra bossy in her play and extra frustrated when her 2-year-old brother's not doing exactly as she's telling him to do. Okay, so those are all signs that your child is starting to get dysregulated. We have got to intervene at this point. Otherwise, they are going to hit the red zone and it's going to be over something really small. And you're going to think to yourself, why are they freaking out over spilling a little bit of water on the table? They're not. They were just dysregulated, and that was the one last thing they needed to hit the red zone. So we want to try to set our homes up to be as regulation friendly as possible. Try to be preventative so that we are reducing the amount that our kids are in the yellow zone and then subsequently in the red zone. For starters, clear, consistent routines and expectations. Prep time before a transition. So not just, hey, turn the TV off. Hey, in 10 minutes, it's going to be time to turn the TV off. Hey, in 5 minutes, it's time to turn the TV off. Hey, just so you know, 1 more minute, and then it's time to turn the TV off. Give some prep time. When I say clear, consistent routines, I mean with everything that you can think of. Morning routine, bedtime routine, weekend routine. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a schedule that never changes, but knowing and being confident for the most part in what's coming and knowing what to expect helps kids' nervous systems stay regulated. Limiting overstimulation, this one, I hate to say it, but this one's for the dads. Dads are the only ones I know who will have the TV going, the music going, and be singing a song at the same time. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Maybe that's the grandma in your house. I don't know. Limit overstimulation. One source of noise at a time. If your teenager needs to be watching the Instagram reels, can they do it in their headphones so that everybody doesn't hear it? Can they go to a different room? Can we pause the music if we're going to have TV going? Let's limit the overstimulation, okay? I already kind of mentioned this earlier. Model naming your feelings and choosing a coping skill. Truly, our kids learn best from seeing us do it, and they don't even know they're picking up on what we're doing. So spending time throughout the day, even if it's a positive feeling, mommy is feeling so happy right now because I'm watching you play this game that you love. Name the feelings, get them comfortable with naming feelings, because a lot of times kids want to say, I feel bad. Bad's not a feeling. What's the actual feeling going on? We need to know so that we can handle it together. And this is something that's hard for people sometimes, myself included, validating feelings, especially if it feels like the feelings aren't that valid. Like they have no reason to be this frustrated. Their life is so easy. They have no responsibilities. Why are they this mad? I know. Validate the feelings anyways, okay? It really does feel like the end of the world to them. They cannot regulate themselves. They are trying, and it is only worse when we say stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. You know, we love to say that. Hey, it is really frustrating that your brother knocked your Magna Tiles tower down. I'm so sorry that happened. That's really frustrating. Even though I told her brother was going to knock it over if she built it there, and then he did, but it's not going to help to say I told you so. So I'm going to say, oh man, that is really sad that that happened. I'm really sorry. This one down here, family mindful moment, that actually came from my daughter's own play therapist. Trying to practice some kind of coping strategy or mindful moment as a family every single day. You cannot teach coping strategies while your child is dysregulated. So it only works if these are things that you're practicing on a regular basis, or they're seeing you do on a regular basis, so that when they are having a moment, they've already practiced and they already know what to do. It doesn't work to try to teach it while they're upset. If you are looking for a way to be a little bit more concrete with your routines, some visuals are a great way to do that, and they do not have to be fancy. You do want to make sure that it's age appropriate. So this one on the right, this little to do all done chart, this is something that I made for my own daughter at home when she was maybe 3.5. She was having a really hard time getting out the door in the mornings, just dragging her feet, didn't want to do what she was supposed to do, and everything was a fight. So with this chart, we would set a sand timer for I think 20 minutes. And she knew she had until all the sand was done to get all the things on this list done. So when she finished a task, she moved her little Elsa over and it was done. And these are all the things she had to do before it was time to leave for school. It almost kind of gamified it for her. And she picked up on it really quickly. And so now we really don't have to use it anymore. But every once in a while, if we notice her dragging her feet, we'll get it back out. She's seen it. She knows what it is. She's used to it. And it helps. It moves her quickly. It gives her a visual reminder of what she needs to do and makes her feel successful without us feeling like we're having to nag her over and over again. You may have some kind of weekly schedule if you've got family that has a whole lot of different extracurriculars, or some days after school, dad picks up or mom picks up or grandma picks up or aunt's in charge. Having some kind of weekly schedule on the wall or on the fridge to show this is what's coming can be really helpful. It may be that your child is mostly fine, except for they always forget their jacket and their water bottle when they're walking out the door. Okay, put a list by the door, or if you have littles who can't read, put pictures by the door, backpack, shoes, jacket, water bottle. Have all those things before you leave the house. Those are very clear, consistent things you can do to set your house up to be a place that's regulation friendly. We already talked a little bit about avoiding competing sounds, so the TV, the phone, the music. Also, helpful to schedule some screen breaks. So I am never going to be someone who tells you not to have screens in your home, not to watch TV. Amazing if that's you and your family, fantastic. Not doable for all of us. I like TV. I like to watch movies. I like doing that with my family. And the reality is that sometimes you need your kids to just sit down and watch TV while you're making dinner, and that's okay. What we want to avoid is being on a screen the entire afternoon when we get home from school, or the whole day on the weekend. So knowing, hey, today you're going to have an hour or even 2 hours to be on screens, but once those 2 hours are over, we have to find a different activity. That is helpful. You do have to communicate those limits with your kids and prepare them, but forcing them to turn the screen off and have a break is very important. Encouraging quiet activities and alone time when needed. So this is where noticing your kids' warning signs comes in. So when I notice my daughter getting extra leadershipy, bossy in her play, or I notice she's starting to have a hard time following directions, I will gently encourage her to do a quiet activity that she doesn't realize is going to help her calm down. So I might say, hey, I would love for you to color me a picture. Do you think you can do that? Or, hey, I was thinking that I would just love to play with some Play-Doh right now. Will you do some Play-Doh with me? Some kind of low stimulation activity that we can do together, she can do by herself to bring her back down. It is not often successful for me to tell her, you need to go upstairs and calm down. she may not even be open if I say, go upstairs, color, do a puzzle. Sometimes you got to phrase it like a question, even though it's not really a question. I wonder if you would please do this puzzle that I've been meaning to have you do for weeks. Could you do this puzzle for me? Something to get them focused on something else, calm that nervous system down. Give the kids a break from chatting. This one's hard for us. Our kids have been at school all day. We missed them. How was your day? How was school? What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't remember? Surely you remember something. You can tell me anything about your day. You guys, sometimes they just don't want to talk. So it makes it worse to continue to ask questions over and over again. What they really mean when they say, I don't know or I don't remember is, I don't want to talk right now. I just want everyone to be quiet, or I just want to listen to music. And we have to honor that. That is part of limiting overstimulation. Very important. A lot of times people think that when we say validate feelings, that we also are saying to validate behaviors, and that is not true. So all feelings are welcome, all behaviors are not. Just because you are mad does not mean you get to call people names, hit your brother, throw a huge tantrum. You don't get to do all that. You can have your feeling, but we're not doing that. Now, kids need help figuring out what to do instead. So that's part of why we're here. Regulation has to be taught. Coping strategies have to be taught. They are not natural. So again, help model naming those feelings. It seems like maybe you're frustrated. Is that right? Are you sad? Maybe are you bored? Help them get through it by naming the feeling and validating what they're feeling. You can say, hey, seems like you're really mad right now. Totally fine. I understand why you're mad. We're not going to be able to yell and scream at mom. Let me help you find a different way to get the mad out. And sometimes that conversation has to come afterward. Sometimes the huge tantrum happens in the middle of it is not going to be a teaching moment. So that may mean that you have to get through the yucky behaviors, and there may be consequences for those behaviors, but you can still have the conversation later of, listen, I was not upset that you were mad. It's okay to be mad. I was upset at the way you spoke to me. I didn't appreciate that. Next time, what could we do instead? Let's figure this out. A family mindful moment does not need to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be on Saturday mornings. This is something we practice together. It could be 3 coping strategies that you really want your kids to get good at. So you just do those 3 over and over. If you are an AI person, I literally put this prompt into Copilot. Create a family calendar for February that has a simple mindfulness exercise to practice, and make sure each exercise is no longer than 1 minute. And it spit out a full month's worth of 1-minute mindfulness exercises that I could practice with my family. So don't be too overwhelmed by that language or that idea. This doesn't have to be a 20-minute ordeal. It can be very quick. Okay, so either we need to come back down to a calm space from just being a little extra excited, or we've totally lost it and we're yelling, screaming, hollering. Here are some different strategies we can use to try to get our kids, maybe not even all the way back to green zone, but just to a better space. Buddy breathing is a deep breathing strategy that really even our 5th graders like, where you put some kind of stuffy or Beanie Baby on your stomach, lay down on the ground, breathe in and out, and you can watch the stuffed animal go up and down on your belly. Square breathing, kids do best when they have something physical to do. So you just trace a square, breathe in, hold your breath, breathe out, hold your breath. Keep going as many times as you need to. You can do it in the air, you can do it on your leg, you can trace it around your paper. You can have a physical square for your kid, whatever you want to do. Very easy way to get that breathing calmed back down. The sensory reset works for kids too, just like it works for adults. This is something I use even in the school. If I have a kid who is really, truly losing it, a lot of times I just walk them outside. Let's walk around the track, 1 lap, and they're usually good to go. So some kind of sensory shock and reset. That could be cold water, an ice pack on the forehead, listening to calming music, dimming the lights, something like that. Adult-led coping skills. Again, sometimes I gently suggest to my daughter a coping skill to use, or sometimes I start modeling it. I'll just start deep breathing and she will model follow what I am doing and breathe with me. A dedicated calm down area. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. Kids do not have the capacity to verbally explain how they are feeling when they're dysregulated. So having some kind of I feel, I need chart around the house where they can literally just point to how they're feeling or whatever it is that they need can be a really helpful form of communication for them. Frankly, for adults too sometimes, right? Sometimes, we say things we don't mean because we're so angry or upset. Kids do the same thing. So we might say, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? And they just freeze and they don't tell you anything, or they're just yelling. It's because they just can't. Their brains can't do it when they're that dysregulated. So in my house, we have 3 or 4 I feel I need charts scattered all around the kitchen, the bedroom, the playroom. Don't feel like you need a million of them. My daughter's therapist recommended having one in multiple rooms, her most frequented rooms, so that she doesn't have to run around looking for it when she needs it. But if you only have space for it on your fridge or by the front door, that's okay too. This is my own daughter's calm down area in her room. You do not need something fancy. You do not need a private room. Everyone's situation is different. Some of us are living in a 2-bedroom apartment with other family members. We're sharing a room with our kids. We don't have space to just have a separate calm down area. That's okay. You can make it work. So if you're able, get some noise reducing headphones, not the fancy kind, the $12 kind from Amazon, so that when it gets to be overstimulating, the kids can put the headphones on. Have some paper and crayons in one specific spot so your kids know when they're dysregulated, they can go get those materials to do some coloring. They know where it is. It is helpful to have some space away from others in order to get regulated. It doesn't have to be your own room. It doesn't have to be far away, but it's hard to regulate ourselves when we're still around all of the other people and all of the chaos. So sometimes we do need a little bit of space. It could be in the bathtub. I mean, it really could. If in the bathroom is the only place that your kid can shut the door and be alone for a few minutes, that's fine too. Just make sure they know where the calm down materials are. If it's just a I feel chart and some crayons, that's great. Just make sure they know where they are and how to use them. That was kind of a lot of information. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. If you are a Lake Forest parent, you can always reach out to Ms. Casatori, High Point. You can reach out to me, Ms. Goodyear. At the end of this, even if you only walk away knowing that you are not alone and it's okay to not be perfect, that's okay with me, okay? We're not perfect. Give yourself grace. We are people with feelings who are also trying to figure out how to raise other people, and it's a lot. You're not going to be perfect all of the time or even most of the time. It's enough to just say, oh, you know what? Mom yelled earlier and that wasn't that nice of me. I probably should have taken a deep breath before I said anything to you. Great. Apologize for the mistake. It teaches your kid how to apologize for their mistakes too. Sometimes it's easier said than done. For whatever reason, it's very uncomfortable to apologize to people, especially to children. Do it. Say sorry, tell them why you're sorry, and teach them why what you did wasn't right and how they can do it better and differently than you. So give yourself grace. We're all still learning how to regulate ourselves, and it's a learning process. If you have one time during the day that you took a deep breath instead of yelling at your kid, amazing, fantastic, you're on the right track. Several resources that I referred to, as well as others I didn't refer to, are in a little folder through this QR code. They are all free to download. I got most of them. Either I made them myself or they're from Teachers Pay Teachers. The creator's handle is on there, so you can go search for more if you want to, but they were all free to download and are open to you to use if you'd like to.